What I'm about to share with you guys today will completely blow your mind, and these are things that very, very few men will ever know or ever truly understand. Now, to understand these things is to have something like a key that so many men look for in life but never find. So with that said, let's get right into it, starting with number one. Now, how many of you watching have seen a guy with a girl and thought to yourself, how the hell does that even work? This is something I notice on a daily basis, and it can be extremely frustrating for guys who don't understand what's truly going on behind the scenes. Now, so many times I'll see a guy who is maybe a 5 in terms of looks, who is with a girl who is easily an 8. Now, as humans, we tend to search for mates that are slightly above or below our own mate value. So if you're a 5 and you're a guy, you would most likely be looking for girls who are a point or so above or below you. Yet here's a guy who has seemingly done the impossible. Here's a guy who is with a girl who is something like a full 3 points above him. In fact, the mismatch is so incredible that intuitively, you know deep down that there has to be something else going on. But if you look at the guy, he's not 30 or 40 years older than her, so it obviously can't be that type of situation. So what is it then? See, many guys spend years and years going to the gym, training their muscles, and sculpting what they believe to be the perfect physique, only to find out later that girls don't really care. You see, in general, girls like a man who has an athletic body, but there are other attributes that are far more important. Imagine being the guy who spent the last 5 years of your life working out in the gym, only to have some other guy routinely steal girls away from you because you never took any time to improve your game or to improve the aspects of your personality that matter the most. If we look at something like the 80-20 rule, it says that 80% of our time should be spent on the 20% of the things that truly matter for attraction, and your physical looks are not part of the 20% of the things that matter. So the main point here is that a man's looks do obviously matter, but they can never be as important as what's under the hood, or the things that girls are really attracted to, such as confidence, dominance, and indifference. Sometimes you see an attractive guy out there who's with a girl because the girl has low self-esteem or she has psychological issues or something like that. But more often than not, guys who are with a girl who appears to be out of their league, more often than not, these are the guys who have mastered the traits that truly matter for attracting girls. Maybe they didn't intentionally learn these traits, but they just kind of absorbed them over time based on the types of guys that they hung around or something like that. You have to spend your time focusing on the things that truly matter when it comes to attraction, and unfortunately, the way that you look really isn't the most important factor. Number 2, now as I mentioned in the last couple of videos, society as a whole has basically been lying to us. And from a young age, we are taught that buying a girl a stone and putting her on a pedestal is what makes us attractive. Or in other words, we're taught by movies, TV shows, and even video games that in order for girls to be attracted to us, we must strive to become something like the ultimate provider. And so you have to ask yourself, at what point did we decide that it was men who needed to get down on one knee and give a girl an expensive diamond ring in the hopes that she will say yes? At what point was it decided that men need to be strictly providers in order for girls to be attracted to them? Put simply, our society trains us from a young age to become strictly providers. Now, unfortunately, there is something missing, and this is a big something. Now, it is perfectly okay and encouraged, actually, to provide for a woman if you have the means to do so. But you never ever want to be in a position where a girl sees you strictly as a guy who is there to provide for her, whether it's money, whether it's attention, or something else that she needs. Because most girls just do not get excited by a guy who is only there to provide for them. You will find no shortage of guys out there who provide absolutely nothing to girls, whether it's money or attention, yet these guys are viewed by almost every girl that they meet as in demand and as highly attractive. So the main point here is that from a young age, society tries to convince us that being strictly a provider is what gets us the girl, yet the real world teaches us time and time again that this really isn't how it works. Society would have us believe that to get the girl, you must put her on a pedestal, but every single one of you watching knows that this simply isn't the truth. Because girls are always chasing the guys who do none of these things. Number 3. Now, number 3 is the thing that most guys just don't really want to hear, but it's also easily one of the most important things that you can ever learn. Now, going back to the guy and the girl that I talked about in the beginning of this video, what exactly is it, do you think, that made the guy so attractive that he was able to be with a girl who most would consider to be way out of his league? he wasn't extremely wealthy, and he wasn't extremely famous, and he didn't have any other major unfair advantages, what exactly is it that allowed him to score such an attractive female? And the answer is that he is a leader of men. You see, girls instinctively cannot help but feel intense attraction when they are in the presence of a leader of men, or man with what you might call alpha qualities. Now, one of the greatest fears that many men have is simply a fear of competition. And it's this fear that causes them to be shy. It's this fear that causes them to be timid, and it is this fear that causes them to be weak. Now, on a biological level, girls are instinctively attracted to men who are leaders of other men, mostly because these men almost guarantee that the female and her children will survive should she choose to be with him. Now, here's the thing. The defining trait of a leader of men, or what you might call an alpha male, is the ability to handle competition. Now, the thing about weak men is that they fear competition from other males almost more than anything else. And the greatest difference between what you might call a regular man compared to a man who leads other men is the man who leads other men thrives on competition. Now, what you have to understand is that this is just the way that it is. Girls are instinctively drawn to leaders of men, or they're instinctively drawn to the most dominant guy in the room. In fact, they want this type of man so bad that they will do almost anything to get him. So instead of fearing competition from other males, what we have to do is we have to learn how to thrive on it. The guys who are routinely passed up by girls are the ones who fear competition with other males the most. So whether it's at school, whether it's at work, or wherever it might be, never ever fear competition from other males, because as men, it is competition and it is challenge that makes us stronger. It is competition from other males that pushes us to get stronger, to get smarter, and to get better overall in the way that we think and the way that we do things. Number 4. Now, with number 4, I've saved the best for last for you guys. And you could argue that if there is one thing that is more important than almost anything else when it comes to things that a man must know, this is it. All over the world, you have countless men who feel absolutely invisible to girls, and they can't seem to figure out why. And these guys do all the things that society has trained them to do, like being overly polite towards everyone and trying their best to be a gentleman. But you have to ask yourself, why do they do these things? The reason why guys act super nice towards most girls, even when those girls treat them terribly, is simply because they are afraid to offend them. One of the other things that society trains men to believe from a young age is that girls are delicate and that they are easily offended. And so what ends up happening is that you have guys who grow up and they are inevitably afraid to speak their mind. And what you end up with is guys who are afraid to say pretty much anything that might offend the girl that they are talking to. And this is the greatest difference between regular men and what you might call the alpha male. This is the greatest difference between men who girls don't care about and men who they can't stop chasing. Just ask yourself this. The crazy thing is that most guys don't even know what they are doing wrong. Most guys have no idea that it is precisely the behavior of being overly polite and being too nice that is making them extremely unattractive. The message that society teaches men to believe is that men must be overly polite and they must never say anything to a girl that might offend her. And then if you do that, that is how you get the girl. But at the end of the day, what is true is actually the total opposite of this. See, leaders of men, or the guys who girls actually want, are the ones who are not afraid to offend a girl. Leaders of men are the ones who take what they want with no apologies. Now, for some reason, though, we are raised to believe that this is a bad thing. We are raised to believe that it is legitimately a bad thing to offend somebody, especially when it is a girl. The thing that makes the bad guys or the villains out there so incredibly attractive to females is precisely their ability to say whatever they feel like saying, or their ability to behave in whatever way is true to themselves, no matter if it offends other people, especially girls. Now, since most guys these days are too busy being overly polite and too busy being too afraid to offend people, the small percentage of the guys who aren't afraid to speak and act in ways that might offend other people, these are the guys who girls just cannot get enough of. These are the men who will truly stand out in a world full of men who only seem to want to blend in. So stop being so polite. Don't be afraid to offend people. And with that said, you guys are the best. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.